go for it.
Okay. So Michelle, the last time that you came to visit us, you were telling us a lot about your kind of history and the story behind your work.
Yes.
Kind of how it all started as well. And I kept thinking, shit, I've got to put this on camera somewhere, you know?
Yeah.
So here we are today with
Okay.
Michelle Sank, and we are going to talk a little about your process and
Yes.
how you also began your career.
Yeah.
So I think we could start there.
Absolutely. So
I remember you saying that you studied in Michaelis.
studied at Michaelis and was doing painting and sculpture, not very successfully at all. And then in the last year of the course, they introduced a photography module.
Yes, exactly. I remember you said
Yeah,
that.
and
Was that
then-
your last year of study?
Exactly.
What date, more or less, was that?
Like
Or
1977,
Okay,
1977. And I thought, oh, I'll just try that because it's new, and I had no affinity with photography at all. And I think I got a Pentax, and I picked this camera up and started working. It was like an umbilical cord. It was just my connection to the world and my world, and so painting and sculpture just went by the wayside.
Oh, great.
And it was just extraordinary, and we had an amazing lecturer at that time, Dimitri Vanderakis,
Yes,
who was very passionate, very knowledgeable, very encouraging, and I was really fortunate with that because he appreciated what I was doing, and I was obviously very naive then. And then David Goldblatt used to come into the studio a lot and saw my work and picked up on my work, and that began another kind of journey for me. Yeah.
Yes, you said he was a bit of a mentor for
He
you.
was a mentor. I remember we had an exhibition together at the Space Gallery.
Yes, exactly.
And I'd done the still life picture that it was just of a vase on the table with light, but that really struck him. And then the real amazing thing for me is when I left South Africa in 1978, he came to find me and he said, you have to promise me something, that you'll never ever stop taking photographs. And it was the biggest gift anyone could give to me, because after that I had virtually a 25-year gap in my career.
Yes, exactly.
But at the back of my mind was this voice, and he used to see my sister in Johannesburg and say, is your sister doing what I told her to do? Is she still photographing? And so as I started to come back into my career in the late 90s, I contacted David and I started to send him work, and I would meet up with him in the UK, and then later on when I came back to South Africa in the 90s. And then
so you were still in contact with him overseas?
all the
actually?
time, yeah.
And what sort of communication would that have been? Via
It would have been,
telephone?
it would have been, gosh, it would have been by telephone and email. Then email started, and I would send him these images, and he would send me back very decisive critique on my work.
Awesome.
And one thing he said to me, which I tell my students now, he said, for God's sake, woman, look at the edges of your frame. I now repeat that to all my students. I say the late David Goldblatt completely.
It's engraved
and then he wrote an essay, my very first monograph that was published in 2006. He wrote the photographic essay for me, which...
Awesome.
Yeah.
Incredible. I've got something written here.
Yeah.
David Goldblatt once praised your ability to find the sensational
in the ordinary.
The everyday.
Yeah. What he said
nice
in this essay
actually.
was that, I don't look for the sensational, but I find that sensational in the ordinary. And he
I
said,
think it was in the back of your mind at that
absolutely,
kind of
yeah.
subconscious.
Yeah.
Okay.
And also about giving people a sense of their identity in a very quiet way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So you left Cape Town. It was Cape Town specifically.
It was Cape Town.
In 78.
And I'd done a year as a photographer at the Cultural History Museum, which is now the Slave Lodge.
Beforehand.
Yeah.
Yes, okay, I know exactly where it is on
the corner.
Yeah.
And then I left, and then my life became quite difficult. I wasn't allowed to stay in England because I was South African and because of apartheid at that time.
Yes, it was actually in the height of it.
Exactly. So I had left South Africa with a friend of mine who was of Greek origin, someone who had studied music, very romantic. Her family was from Michielis, where there were these beautiful, huge houses. And she had just read Gerald Durrell, My Family and Other Animals. She said, I think we should go to Greece and I think we should go to Corfu.
Yes, I remember you said you were there.
And we landed on this island, oh my God, and it just became years of survival.
I remember you said you were there for 9 years or 8 years. Yeah.
And a real process of survival. I mean, that's a story in itself, you know, the things that we did to survive. We had no money, and I tried to do my photography, and I do have a catalogue of work, of black and white work that I made there, but really my life was really taken up with survival, so there wasn't much leeway for that.
Yes, I think you weren't finding much inspiration.
Exactly, yeah, and just the energy it was taking for us to survive then, to sustain our ability to stay there with the forces.
And you started a business with it?
We started, so I went from painting ceramics we started to do tourist guides. So we were doing photography in a very different capacity, and design work and writing, and then I became legal in Greece.
Yeah.
So everyone else had access to other passports. Anyway, the long and short of it is that I ended up in the UK on a work permit for the company that we had established, and I did that for 5 years.
Oh, that was a nice way into the UK.
Into the UK, yeah.
Okay.
But at that stage, I was on my own, so I didn't have people helping me sell advertising. I was really a one-man band, employing people, and the stress was, enormous. I mean, I had no free time, and
you weren't sure of your direction at that point.
I just knew I had to survive there to get my British residency, because there was nowhere else for me to go, really.
Yeah.
And so I did that for 5 years, and then I came back for the first time to South Africa in '92, once apartheid.
Yes, okay.
Yeah.
I remember saying that.
And then I decided to, my stepfather said to me, you know, you can't go on, you have to have a life, you know, this is, you know, look for what you want to do, and we'll sort of help you. And so I thought, well, I've kind of always been interested in restoration. Maybe I can do painting restoration. You know, the long and short of it is I ended up studying to be a ceramic restorer, and I worked at the British Museum. And then I got my work permit, but I got my residency, my passport by then, and I woke up one day and I thought, you know, I'm never ever going to connect with a broken piece of ceramic. I have to go back to my photography. It's where my soul is, and I know I'll be happy if I do that. So I literally picked up the phone, and I was in Exeter, and Bristol is like an hour and a half's drive away, and I saw they were doing courses at the centre in Bristol. So I phoned up and they said, I'm sorry, we're full. And I thought, well, that's okay. My sister's now in New York. When I see her, I'll go and do a course at ICP. So I was like contacting ICP, and Bristol rang and said, we've just had a cancellation. So once a week.
Yes, I remember you said that.
Yeah.
That was around 93?
That was 97.
Oh, okay.
97, 90, yeah.
Okay.
So I used to go up there every week, and this crazy person going up there on a Wednesday evening.
Once a week. Yeah.
Once a week, doing this, whatever it was, this course. And I was still only seeing in black and white, because that's all I'd known from, you know, I had this huge gap in my knowledge of what was going on. And then there was this incredible place near where I live called Duck's Pool, which was run by this guy, and he used to get very well-known photographers to come and run weekend courses. So you could go there, you could stay there if you wanted to, and you got the benefit of these people. And one of them was Paul Womble, who was then the director of the Photographers Gallery.
Okay.
And he was talking about master's degrees and how beneficial they can be. And I remember leaving on the Sunday and thinking, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to find myself a part-time master's course in photography, and I'm going to do this. And that's what I did. And I studied with Paul Hill, who's a very well-known British photographer.
Still around?
Still around, he's in his 80s now. And I graduated in 2001. And then...
So what was your thesis then?
Well, what happened to me is when I arrived, so everyone else was much more advanced than me. There were about 8 of us. I could hardly manage the library or computer skills,
Yeah.
I was kind of illiterate. And I only knew black and white 35, and they said, right, we want you to do something you've never done before.
Oh wow, literally
So
thrown in the deep
yeah,
end.
I thought, well, I don't see in colour, and I've never used medium formats, so I bought myself a second-hand Bronica, and it was really interesting. Off I went, and I went to places that were reminiscent of South Africa, which for me were the seafronts, the space, the light, and I started doing landscapes, and into my contact sheets were creeping images, portraits. So they looked at it and they said, look, you could go either way, but we think you should carry on with the portraits. And they said to me, if we see you working in black and white on this course, that's not a good thing, because you're seeing very clearly in colour, and that was the beginning of my new thing.
Because that's another question I was going to
Yeah.
ask you, is I can see a lot of your work is based on colour as well as the light.
Absolutely, and the way it works. And
very important parts of your work is the lighting and the colour.
absolutely, and it was an extraordinary transition for me, because photographically, I only saw black and white, like some of those early black and white photographs that I'm not
Well, you
seeing.
saw in tones.
In tones and light and dark, and the psychic tension that comes from that. And then that just transferred very naturally into colour for me.
I found it very difficult shooting colour. Because
Yeah.
I always found it distracted what I was trying to show.
Exactly,
Because I
yeah.
also only learned to shoot in black and white when I started.
Exactly.
On a film camera, and then I had a digital Nikon, and I switched it to black and white because I was like, every photo I took, I was just like, it's messy, it's
Yes.
like distracting, it just looks flat.
Yes.
I didn't know how to actually use colour.
Yeah.
So I switched it back to black and white. I was like, I'll learn at a later stage. Yeah.
And that's happened very naturally now. And now I feel if I'm going to work in black and white, I'm going to have to make that transition again. It's interesting.
So colour is your focus
Colour's
now,
my focus now,
with
although
the odd black and white in between, or
not yet.
Okay.
But what's been so great for me is scanning all those negatives from the 70s. This
really?
file that I told you,
Yeah.
the only thing I have from my time in South Africa is this original neg file that I carried all around the world and held so close to me.
Yes.
I don't know what happened to any of my other possessions, but this thing was like a piece of gold for me. And
which it still is.
it
actually.
still
I've seen
is.
some of the work too.
I
Some-
know. And what's been so extraordinary for me is that sort of naivety or innocence as a student, that vision is almost identical to what I'm doing now, but it's become more known. It's so interesting.
Decades later,
It's
too.
so interesting for
Well,
me.
it seems like you'd already found your calling
Exactly.
at that time, and you've also found your, call it your voice in photography.
Absolutely, and I think that's what I didn't see it, but David saw that. I don't think I was too young and
Yeah, and
naive.
you've also just a lot of experimenting at the time, so you weren't
Yeah.
sure of the actual path. at that
But he
stage.
obviously saw that, you know, which was, I mean, it was such a gift for me.
Do you think
You
his encouragement and his mentorship to you defined a lot of your
Absolutely.
career to this
Yeah,
day? Or your
no,
way of
absolutely. Before David died, I said to him, David, I just want you to know that if you had not said that to me, I don't know if I would have had the belief
working?
to go back after so long.
Amazing. Okay.
You know, I said, I have to thank you. And you know, he kept a portfolio of my work in his archive in Johannesburg, of my student work. And that was so special for me, you know. It was a real gift, and the humility that he brought. And I think I just learned a lot from him through that as well.
It's also made me realize a lot of, it might not sound so important to you, but teaching other people
Absolutely.
things can have a profound
Completely.
change in their lives, because
Very much so.
we might just say what we know to someone and they have no clue, and they're like, you've just
Destroyed me.
or
Or
destroyed
just-
them, or
or
just
just-
like blown
yeah.
my mind, or you've just changed the whole
Absolutely.
idea of how I think of something. They end up going on with their own lives.
Yeah.
But what you said or what you taught them has completely changed their way of
Absolutely.
living.
And I think
And it's so profound to think that way. Like, teaching is so important.
it's so important. And when I was at Michaelis, there was a slight element of breaking people down, but I saw how it destroyed actually some people who were my, you know, working in,
Yeah.
yeah.
Do you think that's because they were so that they believed in what they were doing was the right thing, whereas Michaelis was trying to teach them to break from the normal to learn new.
Possibly.
Ways. I can imagine, you know, when you find something interesting that you photograph, you find it incredible,
but other people don't. Yeah.
So maybe that's what they were trying to do.
Yeah, I think so. And now when I teach,
future,
I'm very aware of that. What I said earlier, being critically, but doing it in a constructive way.
Yes.
So finding the good things and then bringing the stuff that isn't working so well. So, yeah, but David was really, I really don't think I would be here without David, actually. Giving me that belief in myself, you know, because I wasn't very confident as a young person at all.
I'm sure. I mean,
and I think, and even, you know, as an adult, and I think it was a real gift.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And then talking about your previous work that you just recently rediscovered, a lot of that was shot on the beachfronts as well as
which so interesting.
Seapoint pools.
It was, and that's what unbelievable, and how I'm drawn towards those spaces and how unknowingly it got mirrored in England, you know, or sort of going up onto the mountain or into these areas of houses which have a slight sort of barrenness or edge to them. That's, you know.
Did you consciously know that your work was carrying through to the UK, like with similar processes? Or?
No. It's only now.
Because I see so many, like on your website, you've got like 25 odd bodies of work.
So I knew that what I'd gone through in South Africa and what I'd seen in South Africa had shaped my photographic eye and my interest. You know, I've always been interested in subcultures or people who don't quite fit.
Yes.
As a mirroring, I think, of my own upbringing and everything that one was exposed to here. So everything that I was exposed to growing up here, I think gave my interest in the human condition and the fragility.
Yeah.
So I've been very aware that that's impacted my work, and more recently, just the whole sensuality of light here and space and identity and the way people express their identity of it. That's
your work is very identity driven.
Absolutely, and I've had to work with the people that I've worked with in England in order to get that sense of excitement that I get from being here now, if that makes sense. So my history has had a huge, and I was also, you know, my mother was a refugee from Latvia.
Okay.
So I'm Jewish, so I grew up with a lot of anti-Semitism, so that coupled with apartheid, I think really pushed me into that vision and that sensibility towards other people, really.
And I see you also focus a lot on shooting teams at the moment, more recently.
Yeah, I did, and I think there's a reason. It's so interesting for me because that's what was creeping in. You know, I work very intuitively and then I make sense of what's going on. So when I started my MA and was going to those spaces, these images, and the reason for that is their individuality of representation.
But still trying to find themselves
exactly.
Too, right? Still quite sure who they are.
Yeah, and I think it was autobiographical on one level, but the other level was South Africa. I'm preempting you. But it was also what I longed for so much in South Africa, that sense of empowerment and colour and people expressing their identity and the way that works in spaces like environmental portraiture. I found that in those young people.
But also maybe back in the 70s and 80s and 90s, a lot of that sort of thing was not accepted yet.
Exactly.
Or it was very frowned upon. So they were very closed off to express themselves in certain ways because they get into trouble.
Exactly.
So I can imagine nowadays there's more freedom.
Very much so.
Actually tell someone's story rather than being so kind of suppressed from
and I think it was the I think it was also the cultural diversity in South Africa when I was younger.
See, I didn't experience that because I was
exactly,
in like the ending of apartheid,
and the way people just dressed culturally, you know, the colour and the patterns and the adornments, I think was something that then grew into my work. So I was looking for that, and I found that in these young people who hadn't yet conformed.
So interesting. It's like I don't know how best to say it, but like photographing maybe teens trying to explore their own individuality as well as their sexuality is almost like a open canvas for them to explore, and you showcasing that in a way that it's not, you're not putting anyone on the spot, you're just showing what teenhood is and what we've all gone through.
Exactly.
What we'll continue to go through. It's not a look how this person is, it's just look what we've all experienced.
Yeah.
We've all been here, we've all seen this, we've all done that. And
Yes.
It's just kind of allowing other people to relive that sort of
I think
aspect of
so.
it.
And
we all go through this awkward teenhood stage of trying to figure ourselves out.
yeah.
And I think you capture that very beautifully.
Thank you. No, there's something about it's like an emerging individual, and that
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
got this dual sort of nature. And what someone said in one of my other books as well is that they see, I present the cameras or the frame as a stage of performance, and these people can then present themselves into that space. And I've always said that the interaction I have with people on the street, you know, or in more whatever organized situations, the stories and that human interaction is sometimes even more meaningful to me than photograph. And I think it's that symbiotic relationship that I think perhaps comes through in the work, yeah.
So that leads me to another question.
Yes.
Was, okay, so you just said now that you do plan a lot of specific portraits that you shoot, but there is also some spontaneity in your work too. There are certain times when you're walking around and you spot people
Yeah.
communicate with beforehand.
Most of my work, I can say, is street work. It's sometimes, I went through a period once I graduated where my work was picked up and I was being given these residencies or commissions by galleries or organizations. Yeah.
12 or 13?
Gosh,
10?
probably about
Somewhere around.
15
Oh,
or
okay.
something. I had one every year. But what happened is, so in some cases I was actually given people to work with, and then I had to navigate that.
That's interesting.
That was really interesting. Connect.
Have a
Absolutely.
connection or a reason to want
Absolutely.
to That's
So I had to navigate that, and often I was lucky in that I could choose the people I wanted to concentrate on without making the other people feel like they weren't part of it,
Sure,
if that makes
yeah,
sense. So I think for the most part, my work has been street work, that I'll go to a place and then allow that to come, whatever happens, to come to me. So I like to give myself some kind of imaginary physical boundary and then dip into that.
Yeah.
So the pool, the natural
Yes.
navigation, so I just go in and it was like a
That's
tableau.
your
It was
art.
like a theatre, you know, of just wonderment that happened all the time.
And then, so how do, from what I see in your portraits, a lot of the people are very comfortable with you
Yeah.
being there. How do you gain that sort of trust, or that allowing them to be vulnerable for you to capture that raw moment that they're portraying? You know?
It's interesting, and I try and explain this to my students as well. It's not me and the other. I think I approach people with a genuine interest. For me, it's like an act of love, and I think people pick that up.
I think so too.
I think they just pick up that I really think they look
You're not
amazing.
really intruding, you're
No.
just there to showcase who they
And
are.
to celebrate who they are. And everyone knows I'm photographing them, so there's nothing covert about it. You know, everyone knows what I'm doing. And it's just extraordinary for me. So the other day, last weekend, I was in the park and I was working, there was this woman who was about to get married, and you know, all the family were there, and the next thing I turn around and there's a beautiful plate of food for me, and that's just a gift. It's a gift. And then I moved on to another part, and there were some people praying, and I thought, you know, I have to ask permission because this is, and they said it's fine. I turned around. There was this beautiful plate of Cook Sisters and donuts, and I thought, this is such a gift. It's such a gift. So I think,
for me, it seems like it affirms what
Yeah.
you're doing is the right thing.
Absolutely.
People are inviting you into
Absolutely.
this space without you even realizing.
exactly, and I'm very respectful, and I think I give people their dignity, and every single person gets an image sent to them, so I can spend hours after a shoot just sending stuff through.
I very rarely hear people sending their work to others to show. Just to say, like, this is what I'm up to, and this is what I saw in you.
No, I do that religiously, and in fact, the one image of Zara that got into the Taylor Wessing last year, the year before, when I came back last year, because they had done me I had to get this particular model release, and it was a whole thing, and they were in the townships, and she wouldn't let me pay her. So I asked if I could meet them, if they would come back to the pavilion, and I gave them the image, and it was just amazing. It was amazing.
Incredible.
So there's a picture of Zara holding her image a year older, and then her mother says, she talks about you all the time. I said, well, I'll take her to a movie if she wants to. She just kind of, and we just walked holding hands for the, we would have coffee, tea with her. But that's for me very special.
See, something like that is what we were talking about earlier, is that something so maybe simple to you can change someone's life.
Absolutely.
Some small gesture, some act of kindness can completely change someone's life.
And then they sent me the photograph of it on the wall in their house, So, so it's very important that I respect that.
Sure, That's very cool. Wow. Here we go. How do you build trust with your subjects? I have an interesting question.
Yes.
Can you talk me through your typical approach to making a portrait? Here I've asked how much is planned, how much is spontaneous, but we've already covered that. Are you working on certain bodies of work at the moment that you've come across, or do you do some deep research into wanting to start photographing something?
Yeah, so for example, the pool, which was 3-4 years work, I grew up there.
Started in the 70s.
Yeah, and so exactly. So I grew up there, and a lot of my childhood was spent there. My memories are of these sort of, and the promenade, of theatre actually, their music, people, and I just came back, as I say, that thing that happened with the guy on the promenade, and I just wanted to go into that space, which for me hadn't changed, except for post-apartheid. So I guess my research was to go in there and watch what was happening, but I knew it from before, and, to look at its history. And then
How much has changed? I mean, quite a bit has, but...
honestly, the changing rooms, I love it. The water still dribbles through the shower. The driving boards are the same.
Yeah.
I mean, they've been painted. The pavement's the same. There's pools on. I mean, it's remarkable. The fencing. I mean, obviously, what's changed now is that it's diverse. It's multicultural.
Yes,
and it's, so that was just extraordinary. And the promenade as well. I see enactments of what I remember as a child there. This partying and kids rolling and the light and the space where I started. So it's so,
It seems like a lot is changing on the promenade in terms of just the structure. People quite frequently these days.
Which I find a bit troubling, but
You know how amazing it is.
Yeah.
You've got this body of work in this
Absolutely.
now.
Yeah.
How important that work is going to be or is. Or
Absolutely.
It's showing Cape Town in a different area.
Completely, and a very celebratory way,
So I feel like those sort of bodies of work will always be, you'll still continue.
Yeah.
I feel like you could ever finish. You may decide you wouldn't want to, but there's always a time you can pick up the camera.
Exactly. And so I do research. I research on things that interest me, like I was quite interested in the parks, where I made that work of those disabled men who were cleaning. So I'm quite interested in
that was in the company's
that's right. So I've been quite interested in that this time, on how the garden for me is once again a parameter, and I'm fascinated how people navigate themselves in that space. the kind of identities they express, the activities they do, how relationships happen.
Still so well.
Exactly. So I think that's how I go about my work, is really finding the space that has an interest for me, and then letting the space talk to me.
I understand.
Yeah, and just and this uncovering of and just uncovering these absolute magical moments that, oh my God, that are sometimes almost religious for me. You know, like these people praying in the park, and you know. So that's what I've kind of been doing here a bit. And I've also, on the flip side of that, and this is where you were asking about the difference, I've been working with a program that does reformative justice, a religious program for prisoners. And so I've been working with prisoners who've come out of that program, who've been out of prison now for 2 years or more. So I've been recording their stories, which, I mean, the power of the human spirit, unbelievable. Yeah, South Africa. Yeah. So then I've been meeting.
Okay, this one would have cut out at some point, but it's fine. It's back on because we got this one there. So you've been.
So I've made contact. What happened to me is when I was on the beach last year, I photographed this man with his children. And then I said, you know, what do you do? And he said, well, I was in prison, you know, but I went through this restorative justice program. And
so that's how it started, sorry.
Yeah. And I said, God, that's amazing. I said, you know, because in England I worked as a volunteer with a prison organisation where I would write to people in prison and go and visit them in prison. Wow. So I'd write letters. So I was really interested. And so he gave me the name of the organisation. So I contacted them when I came and went to meet the guy who runs it, who himself is remarkable. Like 30 years ago, he was also in Pollsmoor when he was 18. It's not only Pollsmoor, it's all the prisons. And he's actually taking this program internationally as well. So I've been given, so this is the difference. So I've been meeting these people and I don't know what they look like. I wanted to photograph in the grounds of Pollsmoor, but there was too much red tape for that. So I've been navigating a space that's opposite where the office is. And then I'm just meeting these people that I don't know what they look like, and then having to challenge myself of how I navigate through that kind of portraiture, you know. But the stories,
so I've
started,
okay.
I've done about 7 now.
Wow.
But the stories are both heartbreaking and unbelievable, that people can actually rise above what happened to them. Unbelievable. So, and now some of them are actually working themselves as tutors in the program.
Yes.
So I've asked next year, because I'm going to be here for much longer, if I could also perhaps do some volunteer work, learn, you know, so we'll see how that goes. So that's ongoing. So that's been the complete opposite way of working in a way. That's
and that's
wonderful.
What would be your latest project at the moment?
That and the work that I've been doing in the sort of park areas, but it's the beginning, and for me, they kind of 1 or 2 years in the making, to get a real depth to the work. Yeah.
Looking forward to seeing that.
Yes, I know, but gosh, wonderful.
Okay, I've got a thought-provoking.
Yes.
Looking through the many bodies of work you have created, is there a particular body of work that feels most significant to you?
Yes.
I think we did touch a bit on the team.
Yeah. It's Ballade. It's the work I've made in South Africa now that for me is the most meaningful to me, and I feel also the work speaks differently to the work I make in England.
Yes,
I think it's more empowered, and it's because I feel more connected here, you know, so that's definitely...
Yes, I remember you said you possibly thinking about moving back or...
Absolutely, definitely 5-6 months next year.
Yes, okay, awesome.
So having got my citizenship back, so I would say... So for me, it's Ballade.
Yeah.
I mean, and everything that represents, you know, and just the wonderment of it.
I love that you almost immediately knew exactly.
Exactly, yeah. And I do feel the
work.
work.
To think a bit like, which one do I know?
Because the work, I feel, also sits on a slightly different level because because I'm back where I feel I belong. Really.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
That makes sense. And it also seems like you're always evolving as well.
Absolutely, and I try and challenge myself all the time. So now I'm using a different camera. So I've always tried to, when I had all these commissions, I would always try and do something different and use a different format so that, yeah.
You know what, I always find like there's so many different tools to project what it is that you're trying to say.
Yeah.
A showcase. But in the end of the day, it's always the body of work itself that is the most impact, not the tools you use.
Absolutely.
And it's so easy to say, but like when you're a young photographer or just starting, you always think you don't have the right gear, or you know your elders always like, don't know about the gear. Just make sure you've got good, consistent work.
Exactly.
Like, the gear will speak for itself eventually. Like obviously having newer tools helps, but it's not going to make your work stand out.
No, absolutely.
It's maybe going to be sharper and better color.
Absolutely.
You can use the cell phones and good lighting and an excellent story, and that is what people are drawn to. And I always think of that because it took me a very long time to finally get a camera that I was satisfied with. To be like, fuck, okay, well this thing's great, but again, it's not creating amazing work because I'm not really
No, that's so true, and that's so honest as well, because a lot of students think if they get all the gimmicks,
I even went back to using older cameras that I had to be like, fuck, this thing was actually such a nice camera.
Yeah,
it took
absolutely.
great pictures, and I kept like shutting it off because I wanted something better, you know? And I was like, shit. It's nothing, it takes like you to finally have that to realize like, you don't know.
Absolutely, and I work very simplistically. I know what I need to do. I'm not interested in all the convolutions of the digital cameras I have, and I know exactly, and I just want to know what I need to know to make the images work.
And whether it's sharp enough or not.
Exactly, and whether the lights are on the absolutely.
Good light, good subject.
Absolutely.
Good story.
Yeah.
Good reason for the story.
Yes.
Yeah. So
technically, I'm very, very low key.
Cool. And that's so good to hear because, at least in my industry, I'm always kind of taught by others that you always have to upgrade everything, like all these new things that come out, you have to start using this, or it's going to fall behind or something. But like, you lose sight of the reason why you're actually doing it because you're chasing all this like technology. I could be doing it this way rather than the way I'm doing it. This could have been quicker if I just had that.
Exactly.
Like losing sight
of the vision.
Yeah, the vision, but also the fun in you wanting to actually do it. Like the whole reason you started taking photos is because you enjoyed it.
Absolutely.
But now you're always chasing all these things that you're like, I've actually forgotten to enjoy why I'm doing it.
Exactly. So I just want to have the camera that works for me in the moment because it is so spontaneous.
Yes,
I can't be,
What's that saying? The best camera you have is the one you have on you.
Yeah.
Even if it's your cell phone. If you didn't have anything to capture it, you didn't have it.
Because, I worked with the Nikon for, 14 years. And then, with the Sony thing, and then I got a Fuji, and that's what I brought the Fuji with me to South Africa this time, so I'm getting my head around it. And so
it's always the same sort of basic elements, you're just having to learn how to
absolutely.
do it
Yeah. And the funny thing with David Conrad, because when I got the Nikon D800, I wrote to him and I said, David, what do you think, the Canon or the Nikon? Because I had this residency in the Channel Islands, there was no lab, so I couldn't use film, I had to turn stuff around. So he said, well, I think the Nikon D800 is good, Michelle. He said, it has a slightly green tint though. And then he wrote back to me, he said, forgive me. He said, I've been using black and white. I don't know where that came from. Yes, I really, it was just so funny because he said, I've been working in black and white with this camera. So he must have read, but it was just such a wonderful thing. Yeah.
But you know what, nowadays, regardless of what system you use, you're still in Photoshop.
Exactly, you can correct, I know.
You're playing, you're correcting, or you're using whatever color you feel is like right for the image. It doesn't have to be the correct color. It's just how you
No,
want to portray your image.
absolutely.
So I always laugh when people are like, oh, it's too much green. I'm like, yeah, but
You just
you're
rectify
still putting it in
Exactly.
software and messing with it
Exactly.
afterwards. So why do you care
Exactly.
whether it's too much or too little? You're going to change it.
Yeah.
You're probably even going to put some pre-made filter on
Exactly.
it. It's just going to do its own
I know,
thing.
it's endless now, it's absolutely
literally.
endless.
I mean, on my phone now, it's actually crazy, but I've downloaded Lightroom from my phone.
Oh
But
gosh,
it's
so you
become
could,
so intuitive on your phone now.
Wow.
It's literally like Photoshop. And any image you take on there is a DNG now, so it's big quality.
that's right. So
And you can tweak it very accurately. So it's like
unbelievable.
raw images on a cell phone
It's
now, and I was like, this is too much.
it's
Like,
too much. And also what's been so extraordinary for me, I had this lovely Fuji guy who gave me, who's like the Fuji guy in Cape Town, and he met up with me and he went through, I was having a bit of difficulties with focus. And just that connection between the camera and my phone now, I just send these people that, you know, it's just so easy for me rather than doing stuff,
certainly,
you know.
yeah,
It's
you
fantastic.
can take photos on the camera
Exactly,
and go to your
it's
phone
fun, and
send it on.
it's been wonderful for me
Yeah, it is.
rather than going through
Certainly, yeah.
the old way.
Michelle, okay, I've got
Yes.
one last,
Yes.
two more questions.
Two more
One I just
questions.
thought of. But,
Yes.
This next question is something that I really am curious about. What do you hope people feel or think after spending time with viewing your work?
I hope that they get the same sense of celebration and beauty and some kind of essence of the moment of this person that I experienced, yeah, and that they see what I saw coming through in the imagery.
And do you think people see that?
I think they do.
I would
From
say
what-
I've seen it.
yeah, I think they
when
do.
I look at your work, I see that
Yeah,
vulnerable kind of closeness,
I-
like gentle,
yeah,
welcoming sort of.
because that's what people have, you know, when people write about my work, they say there's a sense of humility and dignity that
Certainly,
comes
yeah.
through, and you know, real respect for the people that I'm with. Yeah. So that's what I hope, and I hope that people just enjoy the work. You know.
Yeah,
It's like,
of course.
yeah.
That's the most important part.
Yeah.
as well, is that well, it's not really the most important. The most important is that you enjoy it yourself.
Absolutely, it's my absolute. I mean, it's you
It's
know.
just nice when other people can appreciate the same way
Absolutely,
that you do.
yeah. And it's just an interesting thing, you know, when I did this project on that housing area during COVID, and there's a very young doctor in that area. It's quite a deprived area, but she saw the work I was doing and she approached me to do and this was so amazing for me to do. She said she felt the community was really undermined, and she wanted to do a well-being program for the community with me, and that's what came from that. So she interviewed people who had lived there all their lives, who had just moved in. I did the photography. It went into the community centre. The community's fought to have it kept up there. It's been amazing.
How long has that been there?
It's
Or
been
how
there
long
now
did you
for,
start?
we started it in September, October, November, December
last year?
last year.
Oh, this is
But
very
they
good.
wanted to take it down, and the community said, no, this is our community, and it's there now forever. And it's been in the Guardian, you know, it's just, but that for me is the magnificence of, you know.
Awesome. That's amazing.
And the hospital donated a defibrillator because there wasn't one as a result of this.
Wow.
So that for me is really
You see, that's
important.
another thing. It's like
Yeah.
photography speaks volumes. It's never just a picture.
Exactly.
It's connects all kinds of people. and
Absolutely.
communities and business, and
Yeah.
it has such power to make change.
Yeah.
It really does.
So this is one example where it really has made a life and death change as well with the defibrillator.
Jeez.
So.
Wow. I'm so
So,
glad. There's
yeah.
some more questions I want to ask you.
Oh,
we
but
can-
lovely,
we
thank
can
you.
I just do have one
One
last
more.
question. This is for the camera heads. Which do you prefer, a fixed lens or a zoom? Or
Fixed,
Okay.
fixed, yeah.
It's just
No, I used to use, and I think there are too many choices, and I want to capture what I see.
but it's also kind of would keep your trademark.
Absolutely,
because, you know,
exactly.
subjects from your-
And except that other thing would just throw me into all, yeah.
Cool. Okay.
So that stopped.
Great. Well, I just, I was very curious about
Thank you.
Michelle's story. It was absolutely wonderful, and I actually learned a lot more today.
Thank
than I
you
did the
so
previous
much.
time.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
Thank you for your time.
Okay.
Hopefully we can do some more at another stage.
Definitely.
Okay, awesome. Thanks.
All right. Thank you.
Cool.